station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was waiting for you.
Reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Hey, folks. Welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. It's going to be a little more adventure-filled today, simply because we are on the road, no technology is working, and you can tell when you're on phone quality calling. But we sure didn't want to miss you, and we wanted to tell you everything that was happening here at Eye on the Target Radio. So Rob and I today are in Dallas preparing or just wrapping up from the Alternative Mass Media Communication, where we educated and worked with Second Amendment bloggers, writers, YouTubers, everybody who is getting the Second Amendment message out to you and to me and all of the news that goes with it. So it's been 2 full days of fun-filled education, training, and all kinds of stuff. So, Rob, what did you get out of it so far?
Well, they didn't prepare us for this, that's for sure. It's been actually a pretty good show. There's a lot of different viewpoints, and they're showing us how to advertise yourself and different lighting situations and everything that it takes to make yourself famous, I guess.
Make yourself famous, forward your mission, whatever that is. And it was such an interesting group of people that even just like at lunchtime today, we had the states of, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Massachusetts, California, Ohio, Georgia, all represented sitting around this lunch table talking about guns and gun laws and what we think is the future and what is impacting the Second Amendment just in all aspects of everything.
So, well, it's been very good here with a lot of the different viewpoints and things going on. It was funny. They tell you to wear your own logo no matter where you're at, due to the fact that you never know when you're going to run into somebody who hadn't heard of you or something. So, I guess how many of us will wear the T-shirt that says Starbucks or Harley Davidson or who knows what?
Instead of it makes sense. Instead of the message that you're trying to portray, you're portraying someone else's message. So they were saying if you are a Second Amendment influencer and you want questions, and you want to introduce that to different people, and you wanted to work with those people, you wanted them to come to you and say, well, what's this about or what's that about? That opens that line of communication just simply because they can see your logo, they can see your message, and then they can ask questions. You can work with them. You can fill them in. Otherwise, they're like, hey, dude, I like Starbucks too. It doesn't necessarily state your mission, where you're going, what you're thinking, or anything like that. If you don't showcase yourself, you don't showcase your message. And I think that one really resonated.
Well, I think if they take a picture of you in your shirt, they might later go to your website or something like that also. Then they'll be wearing your shirt too.
They'll be wearing. But, part of it is about self-promotion, but the other part is mission promotion, or promotion of the mission, to get the mission ready to go, to be able to say, I'm an advocate of the Second Amendment, so let's talk about the Second Amendment. Let's talk about issues that are important to your state or my state on the Second Amendment. Let's talk about issues that are nationally important on the Second Amendment. And it would open those kinds of communications so you could get started with introducing, inviting, involving other people to feel for your mission the way that you feel for your mission.
Some of the other discussions were also about, I don't know what they call it, community landmines or something where you would, stir up the Karens and get them to argue with you in public about some of the stuff. But I guess a good argument is the way to open a communication between two teams, huh?
That's not my way to play. I mean, I tend to not like to be conflict driven, much more kind of trying to lead a conversation, introduce, educate, involve, invite, not to duke it out until you get the other person into submission to say, please, or you now have to agree with me because I punched you in the nose 3 times.
It's been my experience in most cases, like if I'm wearing a T-shirt or something, hat, that I usually just get a thumbs up in general traffic and everybody goes on about their own way from there. They agree with me, but they don't really engage me in a discussion about it.
Well, yeah. Well, one of the guys who was training with us and talking to us has a platform that's just a little bit different, and that's because he's an Orthodox Jew that is a Second Amendment advocate. And so that is maybe is a little more, not necessarily conflict-driven, but at least a little more opinion-driven. People are like, how can you be Jewish and be for guns? And he's like, how can you be Jewish and not be for guns? And not be for the ability to defend yourself, your family, and the lives of those you love.
And going back to promoting your business, I mean, how many people have a small business but don't carry a pocket full of cards, business cards or something, or they don't have the magnetic stickers on their cars or something like this? I guess the self promotion is a big plus in all avenues of self promotion.
Well, in all avenues of business, and it's a hard thing for a lot of people. Well, it's a hard thing for a lot of Second Amendment people, but it's a hard thing for a lot of people. You've been trained for years by society not to draw attention to yourself, and so marketing and advertising and sales is tough for a lot of people because it's just you're asking for the sale, you're asking for the information, you're asking for that attention in a way that you've not really thought through or practiced or thought about.
Well, I guess you got a point in some of that, and I guess it's a constant struggle. If you're not beating your own drum, who's going to beat it for you?
And I think that is probably the eye-opening message of this conference. I mean, there's so much to this conference that if you are someone who's involved in the Second Amendment or is involved in a mission to where you want to learn how to promote it, the Second Amendment Foundation, their YouTube channel has the videos from this program available on it so you can see it. But there was so much, just this nugget of information and that nugget of information that helps you, whether it is a Second Amendment issue, whether a hunting or sportsman or a political whatever, that it helps you learn the things that you're good at versus the things you're not good at, and how to kind of work through to transition to get better at. So, I'm really good at this, so that's great, and I'm going to check that off the list, and I'm benchmarked to it, but I'm not really good at this, and so I need to pick that up. I need to do it differently. I need to gain new skills. I need to practice. And I think that's a big piece that we learned out of this. And I was really grateful that the Second Amendment Foundation, who is a Seattle-based organization, was willing to fund this conference to bring in the trainers, to make the rooms available, to set up the thing, to give all these new people, these up-and-comings, the new media, giving them a voice, giving them training, doing, in effect, a college class to get them started down this journey and to make connections with people to be able to learn more things. I mean, because there were people in this room, they're common names, people that you would know, people that you have seen on TV, people that you have heard on the radio, people that you've read their writings, and that's amazing that they would spend their time coming in to teach new people their skill, their craft, the things that they know in a manner to where, you're so used to industries where, well, get away from me, you young kid, because you're reaching to try to take my job. And in this, it's like, let me give you a hand up so you can walk beside me. And if you want my job, then that will free me to go on to something different and something more, and you fill this gap, and we can all keep going forward. What do you think of that as a concept?
Well, I think it's good, and I believe some humor into it makes it much more interesting to hear it, and people have different techniques on how they make that stuff happen.
Okay, well, we'll see you guys right after this commercial break, and hopefully we'll get our technology problems solved. I'll be right back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back, and we sound so much better now because we're actually in the studio, as opposed to we were standing in the Texas sun, trying to avoid the road noise on the one side and trying to avoid the reverb from both on two telephones because
then a time delay on the telephone.
So there was a little bit of that. So thanks for sticking with us, folks. Sometimes radio is hard, and today was one of those. So we are ever so grateful to the guys who are running our controls because they are so amazing. And here, let's quick scramble.
Got it patched up. Come out and give us a thumbs up.
And we're like, okay, commercial break, and we're on the move. So here we go. So we didn't talk about. Do you have a history section to talk about?
I always got a history section.
So,
what do you want to know about?
But you actually
Smith and Wessons or something?
No, let's talk about the fact that you spent the last 2 days with Ashley Lubinsky from the Cody, Wyoming Firearms Museum, and you followed her around and you asked questions.
12,000 questions. I got about 7 of them answered. There's so many things that I need to know, and some of it is it's almost like I almost have to be at the museum so that we can look at things together. So
that may be the next field trip, is you're going to the Cody.
She was showing a picture of a superposed muzzle loader, which is superimposed, they call it, and it's a long barrel that they load with like 5 or 6 or 7 loads in it, depending on the structure of the gun, and then the lock moves to a different hole to fire the first one, then the second one, and ideally the patch between them is supposed to keep the fire out of the next one down.
Ideally.
And then you would think that by the time you get to the 7th shot that last round is really packed in there tight due to the fact that it's pushed 6 more out ahead of it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, how does the trigger work on that? I mean, you can see that the action moves in this little rocking horse type gear fashion down through the side as you line things up, but the trigger doesn't move, so how does it hook to all the way forward, all the way back, and give you a realistic trigger pull that you would think if it was staying in the same pivot point, by the time it got to the 7th one forward, it would have to lift up a foot to get to the mechanism to trip the little.
So I don't know. So you're like, I need to take that apart. I need to look inside it.
But going back, let's talk about something like Smith & Wesson numbers or something like this.
Well, let's talk about the fact that Smith & Wesson is picking up and moving their factory and moving to Tennessee. So what do you think that they're going to find as they start to, I mean, any of them?
They've been in that spot since 1852, so there's a lot of...
There's a lot of stuff in all the hidey holes and all the corners and all that. I cannot, I mean, I don't ever want to move because I can't imagine, the stuff that I've left in the attic in the back of the closet. I can't imagine moving a factory that's been in one place for so darn long.
They may find a whole complete volcanic that's been stuck in a dresser drawer or something.
They could. So one of our listeners wants to know who was Smith and who was Wesson.
Darn if I know.
They were two. Okay. Well, we'll look that up, and we will get you to a spot where one history section we will tell you all about who is Smith and Wesson.
It was funny though,
because they're not the Smith brothers, and that's cough drops. Just saying.
The Winchester that we recognize, like the 1866 and the Henry, were actually designed by the Smith & Wessons, and they lost their shirt, so to speak, and Oliver Winchester, who was a shirt maker at the time, found it, and he just happened to be invested in the company enough that he took over all the equipment and the patents and everything, and then he kept a guy on named Tyler B. Henry to modify the volcanic that they were making into the Henry rifle that we recognize today. And it was funny that they used the Smith & Wesson's bullet, the 22 short that they were using in their little number 1 pistol, and they just double-sized everything so that they could make the 44 Henry flat out of the 22 short rimfire.
Well, I think it's really interesting when one company is doing something and the other company is not really a company. So here's a guy who's got a company that's successful making shirts, that has money, and he invests that money in other small companies.
Well, at the time, the repeating arm was a big deal. I mean, it was like space travel at the time, and there wasn't any. There was something that they knew they needed. They could see the westward expansion coming, and so Colt was going great guns, selling their little baby Dragoon pistol at this time, and so from 1848 until well into the 1870s, that little 31 caliber Colt was selling really well, and so these guys were trying this volcanic, they called it. It shot a Hunt rocket ball. It was a hollow lead cup with a fulminated mercury in it, with a cork backer on it with a primer that was attached to the cork backer.
So what did the fulminated mercury do?
It was it worked as the gunpowder and the priming charge and everything. It was extremely corrosive. The bullets didn't really weigh a lot, but the mercury shoved them out of the barrel at about 450 feet a second, so you could almost see them going through the air.
Okay.
If they did not fire, they didn't have a provision to extract it. So you had to push something out down the barrel to get the old one out of the way.
But it was still extremely flammable. If it didn't fire, you couldn't like stick something in and kind of screw it in or something.
The fulminated mercury is like the stuff that the photographers at the time were using for the flash cameras and so like this. You could pretty much just about throw it on the ground and it would light on. It would explode.
So you sticking a rod down through there to try to jam at it or anything is destined to stick the rod up your nose.
That was this big downfall. There was no way to unload a loaded round that didn't successfully fire. So when Henry addressed that, he put the rim on the 44 bullet, and that way he could extract a round, whether it was fired or not.
It came from the back.
And then it was rim fire, so he put twin firing pins into it, so it fired on both sides of the casing, so you've had a much better chance of finding some priming compound in there somewhere.
Because they weren't the quality-focused, quality-oriented priming compound was not necessarily all the way around where it should have been, but it wasn't necessarily always there.
It shot 28 grains of black powder and a 200 grain bullet, which is a very mild load, I mean, even by today's standards. Well, the Colt 45 was run, they would say it was a 40 grain powder charge with a 250 grain bullet, so almost double the powder charge for just that pistol. So it wasn't nearly at all a rifle round. It was but it got them into the market. They were successful during the Civil War. It started them out on the westward expansion. They stuck with that 44 Henry flat until the 66s came out, which were the...
Okay, then you're going to have to stop and tell us about those on another day, because we're at the end of this. We'll be back right after this commercial break.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Rangemaster certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, we are back, and with us we have a guest because now we are still at the tail end of AmCon. Tail end? We're still at the tail end of AmCon as everybody is just packing up. Planes are leaving. Some people are leaving. You know, some left right about noon, 1 o'clock. Some are leaving tonight. Some are leaving in the morning. You know, and so it's kind of sad, and it's all peeling away, headed out of Dallas and back to our respective homes. But because we are still here, we have Charlie Cook with us. And you guys know Charlie. Charlie is Riding Shotgun with Charlie and Gun Grams. And
the most important thing...
So, and Charlie, there was a big joke today about the fact that Charlie has the most recognizable backside in America because he's...
In the 2A community. Let's not be ridiculous.
Oh, just in the 2A community. Okay, so if you're watching on OpsLens, there's a story there, and maybe he'll type it out. Maybe he'll tell you exactly what the story was.
So
this if you're watching on OpsLens, looks like we're in front of the Senate Judiciary, where we just got to say, at this moment, I do not recall. I mean, over and over again.
We're definitely in a panel, but no, it's all good. So you want to tell the backside story?
So the backside story is this: we a number of us from the Polite Society podcast, we're doing a Mag 40 class in Sioux Falls, and
so wait, tell them what Mag 40 is.
So Mag 40 is 40 hours of defensive handgun training and self-defense with Masad Ayub, and it's one of his introductory. It's like the flagship course.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It really is. So it's about 60% class work and 40% range work.
And it's class work in as fast as he can talk.
It is. He's got his deep voice, his low deep voice. He's got the old man whistle. So he's out there speaking or talking. It's exciting,
and he just keeps going.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we, during the range part, we're out there, we're shooting. We've got eyes and ears and all sorts of protection, and gun protection, hearing, eyes, and stuff. And I have a carabiner from the Gun for Hire range, and I was using that on my ears for my ear protection, and I would hang it on the back of my belt loop on the back of my pants. So it's just out of the way because I don't want to put it on my head or wear it around my neck.
Right.
And then I have my personal photographer over here.
That would be me.
She decides to go over and take a picture of this. And then she has this genius idea that she wants to get a picture of everyone's backside. And then she wants to see if people can guess whose backside is
Maybe
which.
it's just a fetish of hers, and that's Did you look in her phone to see how many
other
photos?
backsides?
Right.
So I took backside pictures of pretty much all of the 2A influencers that were in this class, and there was quite a few of them.
There were.
And what was really, really funny was how many people could recognize all y'all based on.
We've been in Texas for 3 days, and you got an all y'all?
Well, that was the correct use of that word, is it not?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So it was amazing how many people could actually identify you guys by your tuchus.
Right. I had no idea.
people knew. And so that was and so this week, while they're talking about everybody and your branding and putting your branding out there and everything, Charlie's backside and the fact that he has a Gun for Hire logo on his backside instead of his own
instead
brand
of my own
logo.
brand, right?
That was kind of where that whole conversation started and went to, because people were being called out for not wearing their logos when they could. And so it was a very good message. It was a very good point.
They were called up by the master brander.
He's very good at it. He's
Brander,
the master brand guy. Yes. And so it is my favorite.
Right.
Charlie is my favorite gun activist that is not named Cheryl.
You know, the
Todd.
funny thing is, so Cheryl's one of the people that had to leave today. So she's like, hey, I'm emceeing this. Can you take over and do the MC for the last few people and do the announcements? I said, sure, absolutely. So I get up and I'm like, I am not Cheryl Todd.
Hi, everybody. I'm not Cheryl Todd. And then the wheels fell off the bus.
Well, Charlie's in charge and the wheel fell off the bus. No, we were talking about people that, the most recognized backside. The person with the best timing, obviously, is Cheryl Todd, because when everything, when
the wheels fell off the bus, she was
the
out of
first
Dodge.
one out of the bus.
Yeah, there was that.
She's like, here, you want to take over? Sure. And then everything goes right apart.
Right. She pushed the button to went right the explosion.
She self-destruct in 5, 4. Boom, she's out. She got.
There you go. So no, so we were telling in the intro, we were telling folks a little bit about AmCon and what you learned. What was your biggest takeaway from this 2-day event that is Second Amendment media education, Charlie? What was your biggest takeaway?
So I know Mike Piewarski's done this talk before about how to get into traditional media, and I know that's all alternative media, but he talked about how you can find tactically frugal ways to get into traditional media. And the example he used is write an article in the Penny Saver.
And you're like, I'm going for that, right?
Right, right. And we all have some sort of a newspaper that comes out in our communities, and it probably doesn't cost a lot of money to put something in. And he talked about.
No, he says it doesn't actually cost any money because they want to.
They're looking for content.
They're looking for content. They want to run something in addition to just having ads. They want to have some community news.
Well, somebody just gave you an article out of their local.
Yeah, they brought it.
Community paper or something, and it had quite a bit of. It was content, and they said that this woman writes almost every weekend, and
wow.
It was a half a page ad anyhow in a standard size newspaper. It wasn't like it was just a
right.
little complaining about somebody's dog barking.
And so she's in Florida, in the upper panhandle of Florida, and so he brought me this. He's like, I'm not a gun person, but I've been reading this. I've been reading her articles. I'm not a gun person, and I thought of you.
And she was making the point that the striker-fired weapon is much better than a hammer-fired weapon.
I'm sure.
But that's tactically frugal.
Yeah, that's Tony Simon.
That's it.
That's not me. I stole it from Tony Simon. All credit to Tony Simon.
Credit to Tony. So so that's an interesting thing. But I mean, you also have access if you're writing content to because the Second Amendment world needs to reach out to everyday people and show that we are everyday people. So we need to not just preach to the choir, not just talk in our own little circle. And frankly, if we're a podcast, people have to know that they want to find us to find us.
Right. They have to look for us.
And so if we're doing something like we're in the newspaper, they may find us and then find the podcast. If we're on the radio, they'll find us and then find the TV show. If we are writing an article that then this paper picks up or that paper picks up, then that is another way for them to find us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I think, I mean, I got a lot out of Rob Morris and how he does his story, and then he writes an article. So he records something, so he's got a audio, and then he writes a story that goes with it, and so he's his own version of multimedia.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's working it from all angles. And you said you saw an article that you were interested in, and you're like, oh, this is what I was in. Like I was on this show.
Right.
Like,
so
it was something totally not related to.
The title did not lead me to believe that it was Rob's show, nor that I was in it. But it was of interest to me, and so when I read the title, started to read the article, and I was like, wait. And as I looked, it was like, oh, they're quoting me. Okay. So no wonder I'm interested in this. It was something I said.
I had I offered a free class of a gun safety seminar on how to get a license to carry, and I did a press release and sent it out to a bunch of places, and I never heard back from them.
Okay.
And then I went to the weekly paper, and I took the paper out of the thing, and I read this article. It said free gun safety class. I'm like, who is the son of a gun that's oh, never mind. This is me.
It's me. They never said a word. They just ran it.
No, they just ran it. And I'm like, some other guy is doing a free gun safety class. This is what I'm planning on doing. I need to get some more students. And then I read into it, and I'm like, oh, this is what I wrote. Never mind.
This is me. Oh, this is very well written.
Who is this guy?
Well, there's a whole lot to that. So we're getting some feedback on the TV, and it says that we need to find not the anti-gun, but rather the non-gunners. Loads of people are just not interested in guns, not against it, just not into it. That's a very good point. And I call them the gun neutrals, that they don't know what they don't know, and it's just not...
They may be interested in guns, but it's not a high point in their life that they're going to listen to podcasts or watch it or read about it in the paper. They got one, and they use it occasionally, but it isn't
And they may go to the range with their friend and that type of thing, but that's about it. But you can... Our goal would be to educate them for guns and gun safety, and then they'll know that it's their gun that we're all talking about, or that the politicians are talking about when they talk about taking away a gun. So it is to our benefit to take those gun neutrals and to educate them and get them involved in the family. We'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com. the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Okay, so we are back. We are in Dallas, live on location, I guess.
On location
or as a remote or something. So we are, you know, Eye on the Target Radio is not only a radio show, it is a podcast, it is an on-demand TV. So if you want to see what we look like, you can actually go to the Ops Lens channel that's on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, and find us as Eye on the Target Radio. So there is that, and then so
next week we're all going to be at
Rod of Iron.
Rod of Iron, right?
So
you're going.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing anything, folks, you can come out and hang out with us
in Scranton. Well, Greeley,
Pennsylvania.
So just slightly east of Scranton, Pennsylvania. So we're going frankly for us, from Ohio to Dallas to Scranton, and then I'm off to Gainesville to do another show down that way.
Tommy Gun Warehouse with the Car Arms and Tommy Guns and Magnum Research and all of those.
They have, I'm sure they're doing it this year, but they have the machine gun shoots as well. So you can go shoot some guns for free.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for ammo. I shot a fully auto Tommy gun there. I know they have.
See, I never got back out that way, and I need to.
You got to get on the back of one of the little ATVs, and they kind of take you out to the range.
On the jitney and go, huh?
Yeah,
I know.
Charlie can show you the way.
Because I've not done it. Well, Saturday, Charlie and I are MCs, so
right,
we're
I was just going to say, what are we doing? Because you're like, I love you guys so much. Whatever you say, I'll do.
Right.
So you're like, are you coming? Yeah. And then you're like, okay, we're going to MC. Okay, let me know. And then I don't hear from you.
Well, we're MCing. So you're coming? We're MCing.
The complimentary 30-second.
You get a prep. Oh, right. There's the show prep. Oh, by the way, as we're walking up.
It's Charlie, you know the drill. It's keep up.
Keep up, exactly. This is what you said in 2017. That's all I'm trying to do.
That's it. It's been a while, right? And we're just, here we go. We're on a mission, and you just need to keep up. But that's it. Just is. So Tommy Gun is going to be way cool because Rob is doing an appraisal fair,
right? And I get to look at all kinds of cool old guns and stuff, and I love that stuff.
So he does those.
It's like a flea market. They bring to me. I get
he gets to look at them, talk about them.
Walking. I can just wait and just wait in a line.
You guys were talking about the time that you spent with Ashley Levinsky last night, and I have never seen you so talkative and so giddy.
She has so much stuff in her head I want to know about, and
It's funny because he's generally so laid back, and then he's not.
He's
right?
in her face. She's kind of pulling back a little bit.
He's like, I gotta know this.
Few people who even understand what I'm talking about most of the time, and to find someone who can look at an 1859 Sharps and know what they're talking about, or what's the difference between this one and that one, is amazing to me. And I wonder how they work, or am I the only freak that's out there, or is there other people like
Well,
that?
you found
one.
You found another one. There's that, and then right. So it's so funny watching him at dinner. And then he's like, "I've got a question," and then I've got another question, and what about this? And you said that you showed a picture of this, and I want to know.
I have an idea for a TV show, kind of like the Antique Roadshow type thing.
Uh-huh.
But it would take someone like her or that to play. But you would go to, say, a big show or a big flea market or something.
Uh-huh.
Everybody gets $1,000 or $800 or something, and you got to go in there and buy as much junk as you can, and then they'll sell it at a big commercial auction, and then the guy who makes the most money on his $800 investment is the winner.
Is the winner.
So
Right.
by knowing more about each thing, you can capitalize on your.
Well, that would be an interesting.
This is where I think Rob would win.
I think that he's trying to get an even Steven chance to make it interesting. So he's like, okay, he'd do it. Ashley do it.
We were doing something, and she's like, "We need something for like a team builder for each of the tables." I'm like, "Just take 10 guns and tear them apart and put all the parts in like a cup in the middle of the table." And then your team has to go and pick out which part fits their gun and then put it all together. She's like, "You're the only one that could put that thing together."
So Rob would,
like a simple thing to me. I mean,
right. So someone's got a Glock barrel, someone's got a Smith barrel.
Right. Can you imagine if they took your gun apart and 5 other people's guns and spread it all out there? Would you?
You got part of an FN 1910 and part of a high power and part of a Czechoslovakian.
And I need a big hammer. That's all I'm saying is I'd make it fit, and it wouldn't maybe a file. It wouldn't be pretty.
To make it interesting, you'd put some extra parts in each thing. So
great!
It doesn't need to be that interesting.
It's interesting already.
If it's going to be that interesting, they better be blender parts or something else, where it's like legit. You can look at it and know that this does not fit in this. Something here does not like all the others.
It's not like the others. Can you tell me which one's not the same?
There, I am there. So see what I put up with him? The things he finds entertaining. He thinks that's fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am not going to punish this group of people to this extent.
I like them. I want them to come back.
Right.
We're looking for some donations and raffles.
These are our so-called friends you're doing this to. How can you even imagine that? Okay, we're just gonna
It seems like normal fun to me, and all of a sudden I found out it's like extra hard Sudoku for you guys because
extra hard.
Yes, it would be. It would be. There is nothing. I mean, most of the population doesn't like cleaning their guns, so they don't like taking apart their gun simply because,
let alone putting them together.
Right, when they take it apart, they know that the punishment that comes with the toothbrush and the Q-tip.
We went to an auction and I bought this whole bunch of junk, and there was a toolbox in there with some stuff in it. And as I'm going through it, I started pulling stuff out, and I put together a whole FN 1910, except for I didn't have the end barrel cap. It was the only thing I had to buy that, but otherwise it was a whole complete Waffen-proofed FN 1910 in this box of junk that was all disassembled in a million pieces. One other time we went, these guys they wanted me to do one of their family members had died, and he had a whole gunsmithing shop. So as we went through the thing, and I picked up parts, and I built a gun off of just a bunch of all the parts of the table. When we started to go out the door, I handed it to one of them, and they were like, "As soon as you did that, we knew you were the guy for the job." So
right, because
that's awesome.
Because there's so many people who are gunsmiths that when something happens to them, the family doesn't even stand a chance of knowing what all that stuff is.
Right, some of it's gun parts, some of it's tooling, some of it's part of their blender or their coffee maker, because this is easy to fix the coffee maker as it is your pistol.
Right. Sure. Yeah, the video producer would not want to pull the trigger on any of those guns. So, well, Rob will tell you that, when Barrett first started, he took his gun out and tied it to the swing set and pulled the long string and pulled this trigger.
He threw the string over top of his mom's car and hid behind his mom's car and shot a couple shots into the ground. So
just to make sure that, not going to get all blowed up. But, there's a spot where you need to just be a little careful. And so there is that. But that's why Rob and I counter off of each other, because my job is to say, "Are you nuts or what?" Right? That's the role I play, is that I throttle him back.
I have built things in the past that she's kind of made me really stand back farther than normal or something.
There have been times when I'm like, perhaps the hard hat needs to come out now, or why don't you stop and buy the face mask at the hardware store on your way over here?
Oh my gosh!
So no, we literally have.
I don't know if it's good for radio, but have you guys told the the El Kabong story?
Bingo Bango.
El Bingo Bango. Yeah, it's
Is the statute of limitations passed?
It was funny, before they started selling tannerite and everything, I had come up with this idea for a target that would explode, so you could tell from distance if you hit it. And I built it, and it was probably 12 pounds. I mean, it was angle iron, big metal pieces, and I put a 50-grain pellet, like a black powder pellet, in it, and a shotgun primer. And when you shot it, it would punch the primer and set it off.
He thought it was going to be like an interactive target.
And I figured it weighed so much, I figured that little 50-grain pellet would lift it up in the air a couple feet and drop off the thing. You're standing back 7,500 yards or whatever. Wouldn't be a problem. We shot that. It went into orbit somewhere. I'm sure it's up there with the space shuttle just cruising around.
We'll be back and we'll tell the rest of the story.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
supposed to ride. Standing in the station, ready to step inside. All you can see, something that you do, was red as the future was whatever you. Train rolls in the station. You cannot make a move. Something inside you gives you heat, and then you know it's true. Is the fog lifting, or is it in your mind? You stand frozen as time unwinds. You can lay on the platform. You can weep and moan. Or you can reach your hand up and stop standing alone. Let them take your hand as you lift your face. Rise and take your place.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, so we are back right after this commercial break, and we're going to finish that story that Rob was telling about his interactive target, that he had every intention of just he shoots it and the top pops up.
I figured it was going to jump maybe 5-6 feet in the air, big smoke cloud, and come back down. You just go back, reload it, and go back at it again. It'd be fun. If it worked out, I'd just make me a couple hundred of them so I could just set them out around the place, and that way I didn't have to do so much walking. Well, so I built the first one. If I had known it was going to take off, I would have tethered it so that it wouldn't have got too far away, or it would have went through the trees like one of those brush cutters where they two halves are in the chain in the middle, they're chopping trees down in the middle.
That would be, yeah, after we saw what happened, because when he shot it, it went in the air, and then it was like, it went way in the air. I was like, get under the roof. If it's going up, it's coming down. And so, sort of like when your dad told you, do not throw a screwdriver because it's coming back down.
Right.
Right? That's what I was. I was like, get under the roof. Get under the roof. We never heard it come back down. But we never heard any of the neighbors being hurt either. So nobody's house had a hole in it.
Noise.
Nothing.
It was huge. So it'd be like a bowling ball coming back down. It wasn't like it was going to be.
It was only part of it was supposed to go airborne. It wasn't just part of it. It really went airborne. And then he was like, I'll tether. I should have tethered it. No. When they were doing the cannons and they really wanted to hurt people, they would make half a cannonball, and a chain in between. So it shot out as a ball, and then it stretched out, and it would take your legs off as it just went through the crowd.
It was originally designed so it took the center mast out of your sailing ship. So that you
think of what it could do to your legs if it's going to take the center mast out of the sailing ship. I'm just saying that the Albico Bango was not going to be good for the community.
Like a gunpowder-powered weed eater or something, maybe then.
Well, sure.
Right?
No,
they won't let you have yard darts any longer. Think about this.
It's because of him.
So needless to say, we never went to 2.0.
We had to stop. We just quietly packed up our stuff and went back home. And we're like, okay.
There was no more R. There was no more D. There was no more research development. All right, we found out what we need to find out.
Yeah.
Let's stamp that file closed.
Right.
Myth busted.
Busted. I'm glad we got our brown pants. Let's pack up our stuff and go home.
Right. I mean, so sometimes having conversations and stuff, he's like, I get this idea. Uh-oh.
Lately I've been thinking about building a blunderbuss, and my kid had bought some tubing to make a roll cage for his race car, and it's really nice. So
that could cover everything. So you could have a blunderbuss or a roll cage for
he
car.
He got this real nice seamless tubing, and I thought, well, I just turned me like what's that muffle that they put on your trumpet?
A plunger?
It's a mute.
A mute. Well,
a mute.
Yeah, it's a mute.
Okay.
I would just turn me a mute with the right taper that I wanted, and then I could just heat this tube and just hammer it down until I got the nice. So it looked like Uncle Fester's.
A nice flare, right?
So it looked like Uncle Fester's blunderbuss, and then I could
put whatever you want in it, rocks and nails and
I'd throw a lock
staples.
on it. We'd be playing with. 1.5 bore. Got to be able to hold 2-3 ounces of shot easy enough or something.
Got to be able to.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you have a life insurance against all this stuff? I've got a friend that's an insurance agent. He's like, oh, you need insurance for that, man. You need insurance for this.
I'm just freestyling it.
I don't know that he has insurance for. He needs insurance for him, right? And I'm not sure that there's a spot where they're like, yeah, I don't think that's insurable.
You're not insurable.
I don't think that's it. Yeah, you're doing a what? Right.
Right.
So
the
he's
deductibles through the roof.
Right. He's going to work under the premise of, well, when we tell him we did that, then that's
Right.
probably covered the first time. It's when you ask permission, it's probably
It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, or ask for permission.
Yeah. Forgiveness than permission.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the parameters I work under there. It works out best for me. Need to know. You don't need to know.
You don't need to know.
Need to know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No. That's.
Once we open the car trunk and take the cover off, then everybody knows what's happening at the same time. It's a
surprise everybody.
Yep, Shazam.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, there's times that it's just extremely interesting.
Hodgdon this week has announced that they're selling off their GoEx plant and they're closing it down. So American-made GoEx black powders are going to be no more. But they're willing to sell.
You're going to see if he can get it at a discount.
No, he came to me and says, "I think we need to buy a black powder plant."
I says, why don't we just buy this black powder plant. We'd be doing America a favor by keeping this heritage of
America
black powder alive.
I'm not sure that I want him that close to that amount of powder.
It's a good thing
if
he doesn't
we own our
smoke.
own explosive factory, how cool would that be?
No.
Right?
Okay. Which FFL do you guys have? Do you guys have the one for making explosives? Not yet.
We could have. We just haven't
Didn't go that
need
far.
for it now. But GoAx not only just makes gunpowder, but they make regular explosives, and they make a aerial powder. So like 4th of July, and you see the stuff shooting in the air.
So they do that.
An FA granulated powder and stuff. So there's a lot of things that could be done there, and whatever they hadn't thought of, I will think of.
That's the
Yeah. Well, good luck with all that.
I'm telling him
So
no.
you might need a new co-host for the radio
Right,
show.
so you want to move to Ohio?
Right, what am I doing from 5 to 7?
Right, on Sundays, can you get there because Rob will be all in the full body cast. He'll have a real hard time.
Be carting him around.
Uncle Fester, where he used to come upstairs and all the smoke was still coming off his skin.
Exactly.
Uncle Rob.
Exactly. Yeah. No, something like that. So let's talk quick about. I don't know if we've done justice to the Car Arms. I mean, because Car's our sponsor. We're going to Tommy Gun. So we look forward to this once a year, really kind of going back home.
Well, if you need a good carry gun, the cars are fabulous. They make polymer guns. They make steel frame guns. I have a K9, they call it.
Have you shot, Charlie, have you shot the car? The K-Series?
I think I've shot them once or twice.
Okay. Because they are so slim. They're like for a bigger gun, I mean, so let's say they're a mid-sized gun. For a mid-sized gun, they are the tiny gun thickness in a mid-sized gun. So it's like a gun sandwich.
And they have
very slim.
It's a striker fired gun, but it has a double action trigger. So you'll always have that long trigger pull. So once you get used to that, it's not a big deal, but it's almost like a built-in safety. So you don't just catch it on your car keys and shoot it in your pocket or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, you're not just going to have it in your pocket anyhow. You're going to have it with a holster
with
that
the
has a trigger guard
covered.
Right.
It always freaks me out when he's like, I just put the gun in my pocket. What?
No, he does, but he says that, but he doesn't really do that.
Right, he's got a pocket holster.
He's got a holster that pretty much he's worn it so much that it is shaped like his tuchus, but it fits pretty much all the guns that he's got.
For years, I carried a Bianchi 120 holster, and it was built for a Glock, but I just
So someone is calculating your El Bigo Bango and says that if it weighs 320 grains going up, it'll hit 147 foot-pounds when it lands.
I'll leave a dent in your head.
Well, 147 foot-pounds, and that was the projectile, and so it weighed more than that. So
it's going to leave a mark.
Right, because that was just the powder.
Realistically, the projectile out of that had to go 4.5 pounds, something.
Yeah, so it was 4 pounds lobbed into the air. So even if you dropped it 10 feet, it's going to hurt when you.
You don't have to drop it 10 feet. You can drop it from your hands.
Not to mention it was made out of like 1/2-inch angle iron, so all the corners are
it was kind of sharp,
pointy, and everything.
Wonderful.
But keep calculating because we really appreciate that because it's like it was going to be bad.
I hope they have a science calculator.
We didn't think about that up front. We really that's not
my
my job.
We were expecting a little pop, and the thing shoots 5-6 foot in the air.
I know, but sometimes math is hard, and it shouldn't be for you.
Tell me about it.
Charlie can count to 4.
Right. In a row.
Yeah, and then again. And again.
Over and over, that's it.
And a 1, and a 2, a 1, 2.
Right. I have a friend that's he's a drummer. He had twin girls. You know what he named them? And a 1 and a 2.
Exactly.
Well, I'll be here all week. Tip your bartenders and waitresses.
Bartender. That's bad. Okay, so let's see. What else do we have to make sure that we cover in the housework and homework of stuff? Because since we're not in our studio, all of our notes and all of the stuff that tells us.
JFO is going to be at
they're going to be coming in.
That'll be fun to hang out with Rosie again.
Right. And I think, so Teresa Einacker is coming because we're doing a fashion show.
Yes.
And so she's going to...
something else you signed me up for.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just keep up. I'm just saying. Keep up, Charlie.
Right. Holly and Lauren, I think, are coming?
Yes. So, and Gabby Franco.
So
oh, my gosh.
Gabby Project's going to be there.
The DC Project's going to
I
be
love
in the
Gabby.
house.
She's a lot of fun.
She's a lot of fun, but she gets started talking and she gets going faster and faster. She's so excited about the.
We've got to go. So we'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
This is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, we are back, and so Rob is saying I have to talk. I have to talk, and there's something I want to say. So the floor is yours, sir.
I don't remember what I was going to say. We were just talking a thing about the lottery is up so high. I just think of all the stuff I could build if I had that pot.
Step away. Step away. No, you were saying something about guns?
Oh, well, America has bought 21 million new guns in 2020, and I believe the record is on the rise
right now. So you think it's not a diminishing? It's not a curve. It's not a diminishing curve. Got it.
We've kind of hit the
plateau
peak because there's no more guns to buy. That's the thing.
Well, and they don't. So are they tracking them by the 4473s that are processed? Are they tracking them by the guns that are moving out of the gun shops?
I believe they're tracking them by the background checks that the FBI.
Well, then that's not really what they're selling.
Right. So there's a lot of guns that don't have different locations don't have to go through the background check, so their numbers are skewed. So if they say 21 million guns, it's actually higher.
It's going to be higher, right?
Right, because there's some states that use their concealed carry license, and all they have to do is make sure the concealed carry is valid. So there is a background check quasi because
it was done at one point.
It was done at one point, and it hasn't been undone, and so they haven't revoked it, and so you just check it's valid, and so you have no idea how many guns are sold in those states.
If that background check is done like that, maybe somebody didn't buy a gun, but they got a concealed carry license, and that counted as a new gun towards that 21 million number.
That's a good question to know if the background checks for permits was counted in the background checks. Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting is that they were asking people why they were buying guns. So here's some of the topics was lawlessness, prisoner release, government going too far, government collapse, mass shootings, personal safety, and civil unrest.
Are these all subdivisions of lawlessness? Like lawlessness?
I believe they are some.
Really?
Right. Lawlessness and prisoner release.
But they asked
lawlessness.
Some of them were only interested in a certain topic of the lawlessness instead of the whole
thing. Or some people just don't think
they
about
don't realize lawlessness. It was
the main category.
Right.
No, but we were talking about this a little bit. I think it was at dinner last night about the 24-hour news and how gun sales are driven by people's fear. And when you go back over that list, it is fear for their safety, fear for public safety, and fear that the government is going to overreach, so that once again it circles back to fear for their safety and for their family's safety.
Like government going too far. Does that encompass the defunding of the police departments and stuff like this?
So it really does.
Topic from there,
yeah, it circles back to their personal safety.
Yeah.
So they're afraid.
That's funny. You use it.
I don't have red hair. Huh?
Here's the deal.
Here's the deal. Circling back. Well, okay, you've distracted me.
That's all right. We're going back to lawlessness.
We're going back to lawlessness. No, he starts these things, and then he's like, and
what?
He puts the brakes on.
I'm going to let you guys talk. I missed it.
Some of it's just funny though, but they always mention, there's 423 million guns or something in the United States or something. But they only go back to like 1986. They don't think about all the guns that John Wayne sold back in the 20s and 30s, and that Bat Masterson.
Yeah, well, how many? I don't want a number, but you own guns that you personally purchased before 1986.
Right, I did,
so,
and I have guns that someone else purchased before 1886.
Okay, so both of those. And I have family inheritance guns that were purchased before then. And so your point is very well made that there was a lot of guns in circulation before they started counting guns.
Right.
Winchester says they made 7,094 Winchesters by like 2000 or by 1990 or something like that. Remington, the 870 shotgun has hit over 5 million long time ago, and so back in the 80s they brought the SKS rifles into the country. There was supposed to be like 700 million of those that were manufactured in all of those communist bloc countries over there. So how many of them made it over here?
Right.
Right, because Americans buy more guns per capita than any other country there. So toward the background checks and the number and the background checks, a video producer saying that South Dakota, you use your concealed carry permit. So you don't need to get a new background check. So neither do you need to in Ohio. There's a whole plethora of states that you don't have to have a specific background check for every gun that you buy. And then there's multiple gun purchases. It's one purchase.
One background check for
and
then the federal
different
government
firearms.
says that a gun that was built before January 1st of 1898 isn't really a gun anymore. So you figure there's a lot of guns. Like an 1894 Winchester, they started making in 1894. So they had 4 years of production that is
without a serial number.
just as good as your new 94. Just it's 124 years old or whatever.
Right.
That's it.
But how big is the market for those types of guns? I mean, you and Ashley are buying them out.
How big is the price for those type of guns? Those first 4 years,
That's
the price.
You run into the price anymore. It used to be you could buy some of that stuff pretty reasonable, and lately, as new guns have gone up in price, it's dragging the old guns up with it. A lot like used cars. I mean, you think about it, for a long time, you could buy a decent used truck, not too much money. But now that the new truck is in the $75,000-$80,000 range, even an old junky beat up truck is still going for $6,000 on
right.
And that so as it's cost you more to buy a new one, it costs you more to buy a used one, and then sometimes John Wayne or somebody all of a sudden makes one famous on TV, and then that makes it 10 times worth of money instead of all of a sudden I want a gun just like that.
Right.
When Dirty Harry come out, the
Model 29.
It was sold for $181 list price, but you couldn't buy one for $1,000 during the time. So
right.
It's if you want it, you either spend the money or you die without one.
Well, there's that, but we're back to numbers. So part of this is that if it's the same gun, it's just an older version of the same gun, and it works the same way.
Right, you're shuffling them around.
Yeah. So and it doesn't matter whether it's Rob and Ashley buying them, and so that would be the Cody, Wyoming Firearms Museum, Ashley, just to not drop names, but to drop names.
Just to clarify our Ashleys.
When you look at, say, a 29 that doesn't have a dash versus, let's say, a 29-2 versus, I think the new ones are 29 14s or 16s or something, the quality is so much better on the early ones. So it's worth paying the extra money for a real early one.
And its value doesn't go down. We'll be back right after this. More comments from Rob and Charlie.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, we're back. So let's talk a little bit, because Charlie, you're from not the non-free state of Massachusetts.
I am from occupied territory.
Occupied territory. And Smith & Wesson is jettisoning themselves from your... They use a trebuchet to toss themselves...
To answer the earlier question somebody asked, it's Horace Smith and Daniel Wesson.
Daniel Wesson, right.
And yeah. Smith was the money guy and Wesson was the brains of the operation.
Horace Smith. What a name.
I had my grandfather's brother's name was Horace.
Horace.
I thought it was Horse, which it's a 6-year-old kid. Why do they call him Horace? I don't know.
Why do they call him Horace? But no, it's Horace.
Gotcha.
Yeah, got it. Okay, Horace.
Horace and Doris. I don't know what a name.
Right. So Smith & Wesson is moving to Tennessee. And what are the Massachusetts people saying? They're like tossing dirt at one another, right?
Of course they are. The anti-gun politicians are they're saying that this is all politically motivated, and they're not wrong.
Duh.
But if Massachusetts is going to restrict the items that they make in Massachusetts to Massachusetts residents,
why pay taxes to Massachusetts to build them there when they can build them in the free America?
So it is. So is it politically motivated, or is it repercussions for bad decisions?
It's so what I put something on my Facebook page when I posted the story, and I said, so here's the scoop. This is what anti-gun politicians want. This is what the anti-gun crowd wants. This is what the anti-gun crowd gets. They're like, Smith & Wesson's moving, and they're losing 750 jobs in Springfield. This is what you guys wanted, right? Like you don't.
hand engraved and built things and stuff like that. And so he actually built little cities around his factories.
Yeah.
Right, a neighborhood around his factories that reminded them of their home.
There is, I don't know what it's called, and I apologize for my ignorance of knowing what it's called. But there is the Colt building in Hartford has a blue dome on the top of it. It looks like a Hershey Kiss, but it's
kind of like a Russian
influence because he brought in a bunch of Russian people to manufacture the guns to work on the guns.
Don't they call that like the onion-shaped dome?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool because Holly was just there on. I live vicariously through my friends, and so
no. Your friends live vicariously through you. This is why we all want to be #like Amanda.
But they take pictures and they do things, and so we get to. I mean, I've never been to Connecticut, but I've seen the Colt Dome because Holly took the time to take a picture of it.
Take the picture of it.
Post it so that I could see it.
Right.
And we were talking about they were saying the other day something about the crime in Paterson, New Jersey was so over the top. But that's where Colt's original factory opened in 1836. Was
right, the Colt Paterson.
And he built guns there until he finally went out of business. It was it's a very interesting, if you read his biography, it's a good read, and maybe it'll displace some of what the public schools pounding into your head if you take the time.
There's that. So it's going to be interesting because, I mean, Colorado drove the magazine company out of Colorado because they were like, yeah, you can build it here, you can pay taxes here, but our residents can't buy them. So they packed up and moved. They're like, see ya. So they moved to Austin. Like, that's more gun friendly. I'm not quite sure that
right now. Not sure what color Austin is, but
well, the problem they have is they have to have people, or they can't. It's hard.
Right.
I mean, you can be nice and rural, but you got 3 rattlesnakes and 2 old men that work for you because
and that's not
nobody
good.
else lives.
Well, and the old men have the same attitude as the rattlesnake, so it's not good. Right. So I see that. So they have to move toward a populated area. So there is that.
And with these inner cities, you get some of that liberal.
The liberal mindset
politics that goes along with it for some reason.
So you have to try to find something that they have this, but it's not an anti-gun liberal mindset. So you got to figure out where their liberal spin is, or their it's kind of
we need to as a whole change that. It's free stuff. I mean, you can be a liberal fine as long as they don't give everything away so that more people move there because it's free. They don't care about being liberal. I just want free stuff.
Right.
It's free for me.
I've heard that before. Let's move topics. Let's go to talk about today was supposed to be the opening testimony of the Bruin versus New York State Rifle and Pistol Association.
They said that Kavanaugh was not going to be there in attendance because he tested positive for COVID now.
So, but it's got to be TV'd in. He can Zoom.
I would imagine it's probably recorded so he could at least watch the recording of it. Right. But also, too, they're saying that the Second Amendment part of it's probably not going to go into effect. And I mean, they're not going to get to that section of it until about the second week of February or of November, I think.
Right, because what...
Right now...
So tell folks what this case is, because it was originally called New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Corlett. And then Corlett changed jobs and Bruin got the job, and so they renamed it to Bruin because that's the rule.
But it's New York City doesn't issue concealed carry permits, and so they're supposed to. And so only through your friends, if you got a friend in politics, so you can get the thing. So that's what this was about. So the New York Rifle and Pistol Association is saying that you should be allowed to carry a gun outside of your home, and they're saying if you need a gun, you should just go buy another gun or rent one from the range instead of having a. So if you got a home upstate and in the city, they don't want to give you a permit to take your gun.
Right. It was about not being able to transport even a firearm outside of the island of Manhattan and the boroughs of New York out to anywhere else.
Right. Well, we happen to know personally
Lauren Hartnett.
Yeah, Lauren Hartnett, who runs Athena Training, and it's in New York, and she calls it in the borough, and
Staten Island.
Staten Island.
It's one word. Staten Island.
Got it. No, I don't. But anyhow.
They had originally filed this, and then they changed some wording, and then they did away with it, and so they canceled the case. It was moot or something.
Right.
So now they're coming at it from a different angle.
But it's a different case. It's not this case.
It's a different case, but it's basically the same premise of what they were after the last time.
But it's just another $1 million spent. It's not,
Right. But it's the fact that trying to see if they can, if New York can figure a way to change the laws or do something to get it thrown out of court before they actually rule.
But not to roll over, not to let them.
But this is going to be a far-reaching case, and other states around the country are trying to get them to change their mind, because this is not only going to affect New York, it's going to affect California and Chicago and all of these places that don't want you having a gun out on the
transferring it. Yeah. So it was really funny because we were all going to a 3-gun match, and Lauren, who has guns, couldn't bring any gun to the 3-gun match because she's not allowed to take them out or bring them into Staten Island.
Staten Island. This is crazy talk. It's the whole Bear Arms?
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. We sit in Ohio for something we call Free America, which it still has some regulation, but nothing like that. But here, like New Jersey stuff, where you can buy hollow points, but you can't bring transfer them. You can take them home, but you can take them to the range.
You can take them to the range. You can shoot them.
You can't take them back home again.
So I interviewed a few years ago. I interviewed Brian Aiken, and he got in trouble for transporting firearms from his parents' house to an apartment he was moving into. There's no exemption. There's an exemption to buy it. There's an exemption to take it to the range and shoot it at the range. There's no exemption to move it from house A to house B.
So do you take it to the range? You're supposed to sell it at the range and then buy it back from?
I think you can bring it, to and from the range, but you can't move it from someplace else. And of course, if he left the ammunition there, I assume his parents probably do not have a firearm permit. He could probably get in trouble for that.
For that
you just have multiple houses, and you've got to buy a new gun collection for each place.
For each house, or you take it to the range, sell it, and then you buy it back the next day. So we'll be back right after this. There's ways to skin this cat. We just got to think about them.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Sefcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, we are back, and it's just so much fun to do a show when you're live and there's other people that are here. So feedback is that it's just the world is just not right. Amanda and Rob are in the wrong positions as they're sitting. We flip sides, and so so it just all is not right with the world.
It doesn't seem to bother me whether I'm on this side or that side.
He's easygoing.
He is.
He's the most easygoing guy in the 2A community.
Charlie, as a buffer in the middle, keeps you from being able to swing at me.
I can still give you the side eye. Right. I'm just saying, the side eye is like a knife that just cuts through, right? So Charlie got
the side eye today.
Charlie got the side eye today. So they have a commercial out that says, if you want to get somebody's attention, just whisper. Charlie's sitting in the middle of this presentation, and it was really hard to hear somebody. And what's he doing? He's whispering. What's everybody else doing? They got their ear out like E.F. Hutton trying to hear what is happening.
So you use the E.F. Hutton all the time. When was the last time E.F. Hutton was hip? But when did they do this commercial? Right.
I don't know. Is E.F. Hutton still even a thing?
No.
I think
I have no idea.
It's still a thing in her head anyway.
It's still a thing in my head. You know what it is, so there.
I know what it is because you keep saying it. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I got to look it up.
Did you look it up?
All of a sudden, the E.F. Hutton YouTube channel is getting some hits.
There you go. No, it was a commercial in the 70s, 80s. It says, when E.F. Hutton speaks, everyone listens. They were a stockbroker. Tips. Underground. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's where that is. I don't know.
All right.
Okay, got it. So,
very, very current.
Hey, you know, I can get that abuse from Rob without even importing another guest host to join in.
Just hasn't hit me yet, so that's good.
There you go. Okay, so there's a story that is out, and it's by John Skolnick, and I don't know where it was published at because we didn't write that part down, and I apologize for that because we should be
in Revenge of the Nerds or something.
I don't know, but it's at the salon.
Another timely reference.
So it is.
That's a fabulous movie.
Fabulous movie.
Okay, it is the newspaper. 1993 was E.F. Hutton, I guess. Okay, see, it was more current than you say. You know?
No. That's the last time somebody. That's when they went out of business. Was 1993. That's when they stopped listening to E.F. Hutton.
Whoops. Okay, so there are folks who are saying that Smith & Wesson and other gun manufacturers should not be able to market their guns to young men, 21 to 25. You shouldn't be able to market a gun to them because they're impressionable.
I don't see that advertisement that's aimed at this young men market thing. I mean, back in the day, remember the old Winchester, like, gee, Dad, it's a Winchester and stuff like that, and it shows the whole family's out shooting, and I want a Winchester or something. Today, they if anything, it shows like police car and the gun laying on the trunk of the police car or something like that, or shows an entry team going in and you can read the Smith & Wesson logo on it. I mean, that doesn't seem like that's marketed to man. It seems like it's more marketed to the police department or something.
Right,
like
of course. I think this is kind of interesting. At Gun Rights Policy Conference last weekend, Andrew Gottlieb spent some time talking about video games, and video games are how a lot of people are getting into firearms. And even this weekend, this was, I think, something that came up, is that young people are playing video games, and sometimes they know more about guns than not Rob, but they know more about guns than most people do because they're using the guns in video games.
To the gun shop, and the kids are 8, 9, 10 years old. They come in, they want to see, and they tell me some name. I don't recognize.
I don't know that name
that they use in the video game. But they would point to it, and I would tell them what it was, and I would take one down, show them all the stuff. And the dad's like, "Leave him alone. He's working." And I'm like, "No, this guy is the future of my industry. I want him to have a huge gun collection and a safe full of stuff
and curiosity and knowledge and information and all of that comes together." Yeah.
Now he's interested in that gun. He'll go home and look up a Russian 1891 Nagant or something and find out why they built them and where they were built and different models and different what to look for and stuff like this. And you can never get enough knowledge, especially if you're interested in buying something. We always say buy a book. Even if you have to pay $250 for a book, how long does it take you to make a $250 mistake by not knowing what's in that book? And so if you're going to buy a lot of guns, that's pennies on the purchase at the point of what you're getting. And it's always good to know something that somebody else doesn't know. I get guys all the time at gun shops. They send me pictures like, what is this and what's it worth and stuff like this. And I go in the gun shop and I used to, when I had a gun shop, I just go in and buy their stuff, take it to my gun shop and put the real price on it and sell it. But now that I don't have a gun shop or a way to get rid of it or something, I'll say, you need to reevaluate that price. And they're like, well, that's what the book says it's worth. And I'm like, yeah, but look at what they're selling for on the internet, because the book says it's maybe worth $350, but they're selling for $900 on the internet. And so if they pay attention to some of this stuff, there's a huge markup in the middle.
There's money to be made if you can do it.
Yeah.
So let's go back to this story for a minute. So this Salon article says that it doesn't take a marketing expert to understand what they're trying to appeal to. They are trying to market the gun as a totem, as a substitution for masculinity to teenagers. And then they say that the way that they're doing that is sporting pictures of camo-clad military soldiers as well as police officers serving in the line of duty. And that's the I can't say this word. Machismo. Yeah.
So here's, right off the bat, here's my issue. Targeting young boys. You know who's a young boy? A kid that's 14. You know who's not a young boy? A 23-year-old.
Exactly.
You can't even say he's a young adult. At 23, you're an adult.
An adult.
You can drink.
You're showing them military uniforms and police uniforms, and that would be.
You could be a military or a policeman at that point. They also said that they were having trouble with Smith & Wesson using the M&P logo, the military and police.
This is what they used over 100 years ago with revolvers.
In 1899, they came out with their full frame revolver with the side swinging cylinder, and they called it their M&P model at that point. So it was an M&P hand ejector, they called it, and they've stuck with this name over different models for the last 120 years now, 121 years. So it's not like they just sprung it on us as a thing. You know, when I was 14, I wanted to be Hoss Cartwright or Little Joe. I mean, we had 6 guns and quick draw, and we could point shoot and stuff like this. I still want to be like that. And
6 guns. I was listening to. I want to say I was listening to some research on doing a show with Ashley Levinsky, and she was saying that they were talking about marketing stuff and talking about 6 guns, and even though the 6 guns would only put 5 rounds in it, they were still saying it's 6 rounds, and that was like deceptive marketing.
Deceptive. Well, they put 5 rounds in so that the hammer could sit on an empty. But okay. So one of the feedbacks we've got is my son, 22 years old at the time. I walk in his room and see a 1911 on the screen. I tell him, hey, let's go to the range. Let's go shoot my gun. I have that gun. He says, well, yeah, but we would have to go outside. So, yeah, because your mom really frowns on shooting
in the house. Yeah, it's the neighbors might not like it either.
There's vampire bugs out there.
There's some of that. Yeah, that's our grandson.
Need the silver bullet for the vampire bugs.
Blood-sucking vampire bugs is what he calls them because there's bugs. So the thing on this story that I want you guys to think about is Everytown for Gun Safety and the Brady campaign are asking the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the marketing practices of Smith & Wesson because they say that the gun giant is allegedly attempting to connect with younger audiences, often pushing the envelope. And so it's crazy talk, folks.
It's a crock of
cheese. It's crazy talk.
Is the more attack points they have to come at you with, then you're
busy fighting them all off.
We'll
Talk to you next week, folks. See you then.